And we're going to talk to Barry in a moment.
Let me see ya, just the way you look. Talk about ya, just the way you look. Someday, when I'm off in love, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight.
Well, here's one of the many songs from one of the many albums that have been released by Barry Crocker over the years, and it's our great pleasure to welcome him to Remember When tonight. Hello, Barry.
Hello, boys. How are you?
Well, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show.
It's lovely to be down in Melbourne, even via the radio, whatever.
We attempted to play a little of the Neighbours theme, and although you're famous for so many other bits and pieces, Neighbours, of course, for a younger audience, we're speaking to the man who sings it in your home every night.
The only thing is, I don't do it anymore. You didn't hear?
No.
I got the chop.
What happened?
Oh, yeah, no. After 7 years, no, they've changed the theme. See, it just shows you, Bruce, you're good at nostalgia, but what's happening today, nothing happening.
Oh, that's a shame.
We'll have a go at the end of the interview and try and play it again for you, Barry, as a tribute to you. But until recently, were you still collecting royalties? Because I know Neighbours is seen around the world.
I still am, because the record was released in England. It was never released here as a single, but over there it was in the top 100 for 6 months. It never made the top 10, but it just kept selling and selling, and it still is. So, and of course it'll be seen in Europe. At one stage, I think last year, it was they estimated that it was being heard by 42 million people a night.
Now, did it lead to extra job offers for you where people would ring the BBC and say, who's singing the theme to Neighbours?
Yeah.
Did it sort of open up new paths in your career?
Well, it could have. I mean, because when the show first hit, of course, in the halcyon days of Kylie and Jason and all that sort of thing, I should have gone over to England then, because it was all really happening. But I didn't. Basically because I had work here, and I'd worked in England lots and lots of times over the years, and it was cold, and I thought of the wet and the wind, and I thought, I'd rather stay here in Australia. So I didn't go, but perhaps I should have, but who knows?
Well, you were really, Barry, the first successful Australian entertainer to make it big in Las Vegas, I remember.
Well, it was a great thrill, because when I first went there, people had no idea where Australia was or how we spoke, and they'd often say to me, hey, say something in Australian,
Oh, yeah.
I could say anything. I said, a couple of Bob Beauty, 2 apples, and they say, my God, it's fascinating. What'd you say? I said, you have a lovely perm.
What?
I mean, you could say anything.
Yeah. But this was in the days before Crocodile Dundee and Olivia Newton-John made good.
Yeah.
Was it Lake Tahoe you did a very big show?
I worked several times in Lake Tahoe, which is the sort of second, next to Reno. It's next to Las Vegas, is the gambling capital of America, and a beautiful place, of course. They shot The Godfather up there. Not The Godfather, but the movie The Godfather. Mind you, a couple of Godfathers maybe in the lake.
Barry, I've got to give you a lot of credit for where I am today, or certainly a helping hand that you gave me in the days of IMT, when you used to fly down and do the Graham Kennedy shows. I was doing a few impersonations, and you'd stop me in the corridor at Channel 9 and say, come on, what's your next voice? And I would virtually audition with you.
That's right. You still do the best Bert Newton. I mean, that's a beauty. It really is.
Thanks, Barry. You do a bit yourself, don't you?
Oh, yeah, impersonation?
Yeah.
Not in your caliber, mate. I certainly can't do Bert. I've never been able to do Bert.
I tell you who you do very well, and that is, and people won't realise this, Banjo Patterson.
Well, I actually heard an old recording of Banjo Patterson. For the people who don't know, I performed in a play some years ago called Banjo the Man, which basically told the life story of Banjo Patterson. But yes, I mean, Banjo Patterson it was the recording of those days, I think, that his voice was very high and very Australian, with a sort of touch, an edge of the upper crust.
How did he sound, Barry?
It was something like, on the outer Baku, where churches were few and men of religions were scanty, on a road never crossed except by folk that were lost, stood like that. you know.
Sounds more like Patrick O'Hagan.
Well, it is. They all sort of spoke in that sort of radio style, but the play was a wonderful thing to do, and I've just written a new play myself, and we're doing in it. I'm doing a little segment from that play, because it's absolutely magnificent poetry.
As we wallow a little tonight in nostalgia, let's turn back the clock to Geelong and your thoughts and memories of the old hometown.
Well, Geelong is where it all started for me, Bruce. You know where you started, but I know that it goes right back to the early days of the Geelong Musical Comedy Society, or even a little bit before that, actually, because, you know, I was sort of running around the streets doing impersonations of people and making kids at school laugh. But it was actually the Geelong Musical Comedy that gave me some sort of structure to allow me to sort of stand up in front of an audience with a script and perform. And that's where it all started, at the age of about 16, a spotty youth when my face was erupting and so were my pants. It was a bit like that, and I fell in love with this lovely girl who lived a couple of blocks away from me, and she'd have nothing to do with me because I was a bike rider at the time, you know, those pedal pushers. And so I joined the musical comedy company, and as soon as I sort of slapped the grease paint on and heard my first laugh and applause, that was it, and the rest is history, of course.
And is that where you first met your partner, Clark?
No, that came many, many years later after I'd been professional, about 3 years before I met David Clark, and I met him up on the Gold Coast, and he was part of another act called the Red Devils, for those people who used to visit the coast in those wonderful old days, and he was doing an act with this guy, and they broke up. Very simply, when he smashed a guitar over his partner's head, he had nowhere to go, David, and I took him in.
Oh, good. You sort of got the impression that you wouldn't be wanted after that. Tell us, did you come from a large family, Barry?
Two. I had a sister.
And school days, what were they like?
School days were pretty miserable for me. I mean, I never liked school very, very much. I was always interested in making a buck. I mean, I sold papers from the age of 7 on street corners. I was in all sorts of little businesses. I used to cut up chips for the fish and chip man. I used to wash bottles at the chemist shop, and, you know, always sort of interested in making a dollar. And school to me was never exciting. I regret it now, of course, because my academic career was suffered greatly. But at the age of 14, I left school, and because I was making more money than my father selling photographs door to door. There's a business out of Melbourne that this guy used to go around taking photographs of people's houses without telling them, and then he'd mount them on a calendar, and he'd have these fresh-faced youths knocking on people's doors saying, "Would you like to buy this beautifully mounted photograph of your own home?" 1950, whatever it was, calendar, and we'd sell them for $5 bob, and I'd get sixpence for every one. I never failed to sell, and sometimes I'd order a dozen or something, you know, for Christmas cards, and so, you know, it was a very lucrative business. So I thought this was pretty good.
Prior to television, was radio a big part in your life, Barry, as a listener?
Well, I want to ask you about this, Bruce, because you'd remember, and, you know, I'm just sort of tossing it over, because part of the script of the new show that I'm writing, I went on all the amateur shows, and I went on Christie's radio auditions. Now, was that on 3UZ?
3UZ compared by Johnny McMahon.
Yes, thank you, because I was thinking, like, was it 3UZ or 3KZ? I was pretty sure it was 3UZ. Now I can write it in the script. Thank you.
And I think you appeared on Australia's Amateur Hour with Terry Deer, didn't you, on one occasion, Barry?
No, I didn't. I never made that. I turned professional before I did that. But Christie's radio auditions, I went on there. I won 12 and 6 and an order on
An order on Christie's, that's right.
Yes, and I wasn't gonged. And then the next day I got a telegram from the White Crow Show. I think they were on 3KZ, which is also another talent quest. They had the best of the winners of all the talent quests. And they gave me 3 guineas for 3 minutes to do this little routine that I had. And, you know, I thought, this is terrific. 3 minutes for 3 guineas. I said, if I was professional, that'd be over £1 million a week. I thought, this is how I was thinking, you know.
I suppose being tall and lanky in your youth, you would have been very good at football and basketball, Barry.
Are you kidding? I was terrible at everything. I mean...
What, did you lack coordination?
No, I lacked a spine. You know, they said he was very good. I trained with the Geelong Thirds, and I wanted to be a football star more than anything else. But, you know, I had the footstep syndrome. When I heard people running behind me, I said, "Here, you can have it." I had suffered from a very bad case of jaundice. Straight down the back.
And cowardice as well, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I first got to know you when Graham Kennedy took a shine to you when you were working with David Clark in the late 50s.
Right.
When did you decide to go solo, and why?
Well, Well, I was the first 3 years of a professional career. I was solo, and then I met David, and we devised this little act, and we went to all sorts of success. We did all the television shows. We finished up doing 2 Tivoli seasons, which were the pinnacle in those days. If you were a variety artist to sort of work the Tivoli circuit, we did that, and we had this American guy came out and saw us, and he said, "Hey, listen, guys, I reckon you'd do great in the States." He said, "Martin and Lewis have broken up, and you guys would be terrific." And he wanted to take us back to America, which thrilled me. I thought, this is fantastic, But I remember David saying, "No, we've come to a crossroads. I want to make it by myself. I've decided that I want to go separate ways." And I was, of course, naturally shocked. I said, "This guy wants to take us to America." He said, "Yes, but I think that if we go to America, that may be it for the rest of my life, and I want to do a solo act." And David broke up the act. And then for the next 2 years, we sort of went our separate ways, and we came back together for about 6 months to do some nice work. And then after that, he went off and he lives in New York now. He's not in show business anymore, and I sort of went my way. It was fate, I guess. These things happen, and I went on to do all the things that I went on to do.
Barry Crocker, our special guest tonight. Barry, the adventures and times of Barry McKenzie, do they hold a soft spot for you?
They do. I mean, it was a great time to sort of be part of that renaissance of Australian culture and movies, and the pictures were enormously successful. The first one was the first Australian movie ever to make $1 million in Australia, which gave us a tremendous thrill. Of course, went on to make many, many millions.
Did Barry Humphries write the script for that?
Yes, he did, and Nicholas Garland sort of provided the sketches. Everyone had a little bit to say in the script. I got a few of the lines in that I wrote, but basically Barry Humphries conceived it and constructed it and wrote the main script.
What are you most comfortable doing, Barry, at this stage when you've done so much and you've matured? You can look back on your career and say, yes, I really can please myself, and what I really love doing is this. What is it?
I think talking to a couple of old mates on the radios rather than...
That's nice.
Oh, we've been looking forward to this. And, of course, you've been very successful in your television career because there was a time when you were doing Sound of Music. I think you replaced Bobby Lim on that, and I also remember a very successful series you did with Carol Ray called 66 and all that.
Right. Well, I went to, after Crocker and Clark, I'll try and capsulize this if I can for you guys or anyone who may be vaguely interested. After Crocker and Clark broke up, I did go overseas, and from there I went all through the East and all through Europe and Israel and finished up in America. And I had some very big interest in America, and I came back to collect my family and take them back to America. And when I arrived back at the end of 1965, a place called the Lido had just opened in Melbourne, which was a very beautiful theatre restaurant. I don't think there's ever been one to top it. It was owned by David McElrath, and they asked me to star there, and I was the first Australian star that they'd had in the room, and maybe they thought I was American, I don't know, but I came back, and people from Channel 10 who had just opened the station came to see me, and they said, "Look, we've got this new show going with Carol Ray, and would you like to be part of it?" And I went up and auditioned for them. They said, "Yes, that's terrific." And so I finished up joining them, and they said, "Well, it's a 13-week series." I said, "Terrific." So I wrote to my connections in America, and I said, "Listen, I'm just going to take a few weeks off here, and it gives me the great opportunity of learning television, being the star of, or part of a show that will star me, and et cetera, et cetera." And the show was then taken up for another 13 weeks, and then they said, "Would you like your own show?" And a year later, I wrote back to America and said, "I'm not coming back," and that, of course, led to Say It With Music, and then Sound of Music, which I did for 2 years, and it was a Gold Logie situation with that, and it was a tremendous success. And of course, after that, then I went to London, and the Barry McKenzie thing happened. So that in that little period, I did a lot of work, and a lot of things happened.
Well, Barry, just wrapping things up from our end, and thank you for a lovely chat tonight. Just finally, what are you happiest at doing?
Really, I think that the best thing is standing up in front of a live audience, whether it be in a play. I had 2 lovely seasons with Educating Rita in the last 2 years, which were fabulous. The show I've just written, which is opening in Sydney on the 4th of August, I've written it because it gives me a chance to do everything that I like doing, which is to stand up in front of a live audience, to do comedy, to sing the songs, the sort of music that I love, and just generally make money.
That's lovely. Make money and have fun doing it.
Exactly.
Well, from two very good friends of yours, in Phil and myself, I thank you for a lovely chat tonight.
And thank you, guys. It's always a pleasure, and congratulations on both your success. I watch you, Bruce, with Bert occasionally, and it always gives me a laugh. And
Oh, good.
you've got to stop laughing.
Thanks, Barry.
Oh, it's lovely.
Okay, Barry, lovely talking to you. We'll see you back in Melbourne sometime.
Teamless love you after the Steve Varzard show.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours. Just a friendly wave each morning helps to make a better day. Neighbours need to get to know each other. Next door is only